Good evening. Would you all stand with me, please, for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance? Tony, if you'd go to the podium, please.
If you would, please bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, God, thank you. Thank you for gathering us together this evening in this beautiful city. Father, thank you for helping us and allowing us to live in a country where we are free and we are free to speak and free to gather peacefully. Father, I pray that you guide our eyes, guide our hearts, guide our thoughts, guide our conversation tonight. Help us glorify you. And all these things I ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Before we do the pledge this evening, I would like to simply remind all of you that Vienna lost one of its former council members. Louise Fleming passed away in the services were today. She was a wonderful asset that always kept the city in her heart and wanted it to be the best that it could be. So if you would remember the Fleming family. Jim, if you'd lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for June the 27th, 2024. Let the record reflect that all members of council, with the exception of Mr. Azinger and Mr. Bibby, are present this evening. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The first item on our agenda this evening is our public forum. We have a large amount of people that have asked to speak this evening, so I would like to remind all of you that you must contain your remarks to a 5-minute period. And so we will start this evening with Mr. Terry Hickle.
I'm Terry Hickle, Sandalwood Place off of 46th Street. I've lived in Vienna since 1978. I've been to many council meetings over the years, but this is the first time I've spoken here. I've always been interested in fitness and ran my last marathon at the age of 59. I've considered Grand Central, Rosemar Road, 46th Street beyond the Pines, River Road, and Jackson Park Hill over to the ball fields. Dangerous for pedestrians, but I've run them all. I really appreciate what Vienna has done over the years to encourage fitness. The path parallel to Jackson Hill was a game changer. It didn't make the run any easier, but it made it safe, running from my house to the trails in McDonough Park. The walking path around the ball fields and the exercise stations at Jackson Park are other examples. And the Parks Department is outstanding in keeping all of these, including Spencer's Landing, in excellent shape. And I want to thank you for all of that. I was excited to see the multi-use proposal for Spencer's Landing. I sort of consider Grand Central Avenue a dividing line in Vienna. The east side has Jackson Park, Spencer Park, the ball fields, including the swimming pool, tennis courts, McDonough Park. The west side of Grand Central does not have a public green space. Now they will. Families can ride their bikes on the back streets, avoiding River Road, except for the one crossing. After the plan was approved, I watched for equipment show up on the site. Then I realized that the pool was a major project and Spencer's Landing would have to wait. Being a fiscal conservative, I was fine with that. The pool project has now come to fruition. I read about the amphitheater and thought the city is doing Spencer's Landing in phases. Great, we're avoiding borrowing money. But then I understood that the multi-use plan was thrown out for single use, the amphitheater and parking lot. I apparently missed the discussion on this. I'm offended when any public entity uses public funds then charges the public to attend events there. Grants, unless they are private, are still taxpayer monies. Since this is an open-air structure in a floodplain, it will have limited use. All of the parks are heavily used. I mainly use McDonough, and I've never been there without running into people. I believe the space on the west side will also be used heavily. The river view is relaxing. I don't know any other public space in Vienna that has a view of the river. Please stick to the multi-use plan. This all reminded me of a 60s song. They paved paradise to put in a parking lot. This can be your legacy. Thank you.
Tony Morrison.
Tony Morrison, 12th Street in Vienna. First thing I want to say is tomorrow starts the Freedom Festival. I hope everybody here can attend. It's going to be a great time. The rest of the time I want to spend talking about item 3 on the agenda. I think there's probably a lot of people here, but I want to just kind of go through the contract that was sent by Thrasher and kind of highlight some things that I noticed in it. So we're talking about 4 parcels specifically for the development of these properties. One is Spencer's Landing, the other is John's Manville, the other is the 12th Street, and then another one is it threw up a question mark. There's 25.34 acres behind the Grand Central Mall, owned by Grand Central Parkersburg LLC. It's included in the plan as well. And then on the planning section in the contract from Thrasher, it talks about the creation of 2 to 3 alternatives for developing these properties, these 4 properties. They're going to come up with 2 to 3 alternatives that illustrate community vision. The community vision is the words that the contract uses. In that same section, section 2 of the planning section, it talks about the amphitheater that's based on the parameters in the impact analysis. The impact analysis showed a amphitheater of 3,000 to 4,000 seat that's covered. I have not necessarily been in every meeting, but I know I've listened to them all for the last couple of years, and I haven't seen any plans, any designs that show an amphitheater of 3,000 to 4,000 covered seating. Section 3 of this contract that the city is considering entering into tonight, Section 3 underneath the planning section says, then an open house will be held to discuss these plans with the public. Those plans will be discussed. They'll be brought to what they're calling the steering committee, and they'll bring those plans to discuss with the public. And then finally, they'll finalize those plans once the public hearing has been held. And the steering committee kind of gives them their final thumbs up, and then the plans get finalized. So that's kind of the gist of this contract that's in front of the city tonight. That's what I think a lot of people are here to talk about. Now, I want to say first and foremost, congrats. I've worked with Thrasher several times, top-notch company. And I mean that. I've worked with them on a few different projects. I really enjoyed my time with Thrasher. But in this instance, we're talking about 2 to 3 alternatives that illustrate community vision. I haven't seen the vision of the community. The only vision that I've seen is something that Councilman Mancuso came up with that showed an open kind of green space that didn't have a 3,000 to 4,000 covered seats. And that's what they're going to be doing their design based on for this amphitheater. So some questions I have that I'm hoping council can answer tonight is, who who is the steering committee? And really the bottom line is, what are we talking about? What are we hiring? What are we paying Thrasher $43,000 to design? What are we giving this Picasso painter 43 grand to just come up with? I don't think anybody knows what that is. And I think, if we're going to be spending city money, dollars that, we all pay, we all chip in, these are our tax dollars, we should know exactly what it is we're entering into a contract to have designed. Again, I'm excited. I think everybody's excited for something to happen at Spencer's Landing, but we want to know what it is. We want to know what our money is going towards. We don't want to just blindly jump in bed with this huge company, this amazing, grand company. They're going to do a great job. I'm sure they will. But what if they come back and those 2 to 3 alternatives are not what we want? Now there's going to be change orders. Now we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. We're going to have to kick it all back. Let's talk about on the front end. Guys, I'm excited about this. I think everybody's excited to see development. But let's cool our jets. Council, please, I'm looking at every one of you tonight. Please, don't pass this. Vote this down.
Your time's up, Tony.
Passes.
Oh, thanks.
Dwayne West.
Good evening, Council. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I am on board with the gentleman that just spoke as well, but my two personal reasons here this evening, I live at 1410 8th Street in Vienna. It's a cul-de-sac circle. And for years, I've been there 21 years, there's been no parking signs on the right side of the road when you come around. It says no parking. The signs are faded, some are missing. I know my neighbor, when their water main blew last year, the sign just disappeared. And as early as today, the mailman had to back up and go between my truck and a vehicle that was parked in the middle of a turn. I've seen the UPS and FedEx trucks turn around and skip delivery because they can't get through. It's not only at this turn at my residence, 3 houses down, there's cars parked on the inside of the road and cars park in front of 1404, sometimes all night, sometimes for many hours. And it makes it very difficult for anybody to get through, let alone an emergency personnel, an ambulance, a fire truck, anything like that. So not only is it a safety problem, it's a problem for people that are waiting for deliveries, maybe medications, maybe just Amazon. But in either instance, there are signs there and people park within 5 feet of these signs and just disregard them. Now, whether it's because they're so faded they can't see them, or they need someone to remind them when they park there, maybe an officer driving through and just saying, hey, folks, this is no parking this side. Maybe if they got, I've asked people and they've told me it's none of my concern. But it is, my neighbors have kids that play. And when there's cars on both sides, these kids could come out into moving traffic. I mean, it just seems to me a big safety issue. And then my other issue is, and this has been one since my house was built in 1965, between 1404 and 1406, there's a street drain that goes between the houses to a 10-foot right-of-way that goes between my house and 7th Street. And then it used to go behind what was Sun TV and all of that plaza there, and drain. Since I've lived there, I've talked to the DNR, I've talked to the state, I've talked to the county, and I've talked to the city. And the city had told me that it wasn't their property, and it is bordered by Ohio Valley, which is now WVU, and the nursing home that used to be up on the hill. But I have here original plats and actually a description and a form number that tells the streets right away, dated 68, that shows this is indeed Vienna property. Water gets clear up to my neighbors on 7th Street, clear up halfway up their hill into their pool. The mosquitoes and all of that are horrid. And, a lot of things come with that. But also, When it gets hot and starts to dry up, it's an awful stench and odor. Can't be healthy. And I think all it would need would be the city to come in and clean out their right-of-way that was originally there to begin with. For whatever reason, some of it got filled in between 1404 and 1406. But it is an issue. My neighbors behind me have had issues. They have kids and grandkids that come there. They can't even enjoy their pool. They go outside and it's so insect infested from the swamp that's back there, they can't enjoy their property. Not to mention the sale of property is really bad. When someone asks, does it flood? You have to tell them that some parts of the year you have 6 foot of water in your backyard. And it is that bad. So I'd ask that if you could look into these two situations and just see if there's a resolution we can come to. Probably not a large expense, especially the parking issue. Maybe some new signs. I know the sign that's missing by the telephone pole in front of my house, they were parked right there today. And I have video from today of the mailman having to back up, skip that mailbox and go around. And he's complained, and so has the UPS and FedEx drivers. So it's not just my problem, and it probably happens on other streets in Vienna, but it happens in mine for sure. And I thank you for your time.
Glenn, you can remind me what your address is. It's 14 what?
1410 8th Street.
Mr. West?
Yes.
The 1404 to 1406 is the address that you're referring to on the drain?
On the drain, it's between those two.
We've looked at that several times. Mr. Skogstad, would you please research that? Okay, because we'll figure it out. Okay, as far as your stop or your no parking signs go, we will not get it done tomorrow because we have to make those. But I'll get those signs put in for you next week. That's, not a big deal at all. But the drainage issue, we're going to have to check on that. All right?
I understand completely.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Council.
It's, it just says it's a 10-foot drain to 7th Street.
And actually, that divides a little bit. It goes 8th Street, and then there's 15th Avenue and 14th Avenue right there in the same area.
And that drain is the drain that runs underneath that new complex where what's not Dollar General, what's it called?
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Yes, Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree.
Yes.
It goes underneath that right there. That is the right. Would you look that up on the map? All right.
You can have these forms that have the plat numbers if you'd like.
Yeah, that would save him a little time.
Jennifer sends me
Appreciate you.
And on the top right corner, it tells you the numbers.
Dwayne, Jennifer sends me pictures of the ducks.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Stephen Santer.
Is it Sandra or Jen?
Santer, S-A-N-T-E-R.
Sandra.
The elder, Stephen Santer, the elder, I've got a son, Junior. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to come before you guys and speak this evening. I have the same topic of conversation that several of the other residents and constituents have talked about already. February 2021, I became involved with a written request that came out of the citizen or the city that asked citizens to submit a plan for their ideas and concepts regarding Spencer's Landing. I submitted a plan, as did many other residents at that time, okay, 2021. I was very excited about the opportunity to be able to do that. Then the brownfield remediation had to be completed, and it was done, and I thought, well, now things will get started with this plan. There's been many meetings since 2021, many conversations since 2021, and many plans put forth since 2021. Now it's 2024, and sadly, it still appears that this project has been started over again. The proposed resolution appears to once again be void of any definitive actions and appears to be another beginning spin off of the idea of an amphitheater. Every plan I've seen, every plan that I saw submitted, and one of the most important pieces that people put in was an amphitheater, but there was many other ideas and many other pieces to this puzzle down there at Spencer's Landing. It's a one-shot deal, it's a one opportunity. It could be your guys' legacy, it could be your guys' crown jewel for the city. But driven by one amphitheater is not the idea to complete a whole project. Back to the rest of the problem. There's a lot of vagaries in the proposal that you're going to talk about and be voted on. I recommend you don't vote on it. Many things in there that I think need to be resolved and brought out into the open. There's two ideas of committees during this process. One is a committee that was formed to interview potential qualified engineering candidates. Who was this committee and where did they come from? The second committee is a steering committee that's going to be involved with working with Thrasher throughout the process. Who's on this committee? Where did they come from? What's their expertise? Who's leading this? Who's leading this project? Over on the second page, or the first page of the Thrasher's proposal, the Spencer's Landing Amphitheater and the master plan, and that's what the proposal is. It talks about 4 parcels of land. Now, instead of Spencer's Landing, it also includes 3 other parcels, not just Spencer's Landing. What do they have to do with Spencer's Landing and an amphitheater? What are these parcels? It's numbered here, 002, 000, 00300. I don't see here what kind of parcels of property are. Is it John Mansville? Is it McDonough Park? Is it Jackson Park? Is it Spencer's Park? What are these 4 parcels that's referred to into this? And what is Thrasher going to be able to do with an amphitheater spread out over 4 different parcels of land? The thing that they're going to talk about and enter into is the amphitheater parking, walking, biking paths, green room, concessions building, et cetera. I see nothing about a flex open area that would get the opportunity for many different opportunities of different things to happen there. No play areas, no picnic shelters. Every plan I've seen incorporates all those sort of things. It talks about the Park and Recreation Master Plan provided by the City of Vienna. Website will be considered in our planning efforts. Considered in our planning efforts. The Park and Rec Plan is pretty comprehensive, and as I looked at that, it's a very good plan. It's a little bit too spread out and too many things in there for me, but it's a good beginning that they ought to be more than considered. Council adopted back in 2022 another plan as a concept plan. You guys adopted it back in 2022, that it was a complete concept plan. I don't see any reference to this plan anywhere in this proposal that you've got from you guys or Thrasher that talks about reviewing it and looking at anything about that plan. If y'all seen that plan, it's pretty damn good. Throughout this thing, it talks about a lot of to-dos that's going to be taken care of, but there's no when's they're going to happen. There's no timelines in this. There has to be expectations. Completion should be spelled out. Expectations, date, what the purpose is. Open-ended is just a recipe for delays, exercises, excuses, and mistakes. $43,000 is a lot of money to be spending on something that we can't control. There's a period of performance in the terms and conditions that Thrasher has given to you guys to consider. Services provided under this offer to perform service are proposed to be completed within a reasonable amount of time from execution of this offer to perform services by the client. So if you guys sign today or tomorrow, whenever you would sign it, a reasonable amount of time they're going to complete all these to-dos, but there isn't any time on it. Unless the client gives a separate schedule to attach to the Thrasher business. Are you guys steering committee, or is the committee that interviewed and selected them going to provide this schedule? If you don't,
Steve, I'm
Thrasher.
sorry, your time's up.
Okay, Mayor. Thrasher shall be the sole determinant of what is reasonable amount of time to perform these services. That ain't right. You guys need to control it. You need to have timelines so that you can know what's being done out there. Okay? Thank you.
Ethel Harris.
Well, I am sure glad to see that we've got a lot of people here tonight. You know now that they are interested in our city. So I would like to say, I'd like to start out to tell you the sidewalks on 28th Street, Jimbo did a beautiful job. But with that ugly John Mansville place there, when people come to town, they walk down over the hill, 28th Street, those nice sidewalks. Then they got to look at that dump. You need to spend, since money is flowing, you need to spend some of that money, put up a real nice, tall, white fence so they don't have to look at that. And I think they would appreciate the sidewalks even better. So you might consider thinking about that if you want to make it beautiful or help. So that should be maybe more than $15,000 or so just to get the fences. Now, back to the amphitheater. Yeah, I live on River Road. River Road cannot handle the traffic it's going to get. You get 4,000 people down there. It's not going to handle the traffic. Across the street from my house is people parking on the street in front of their house. So it's going to be backed up when you got something going on all evening. So I think, and then we don't have hotels and motels but one in Vienna. And Kim and I talked about that. Of course, Kim suggested they stay at my house, but they couldn't afford it. So I can't let them do that. So I think those are things you got to take into consideration also, is especially River Road, and get that. But I am against the amphitheater because of all the traffic on River Road and the things that's going to go on down there. So I don't think it's a good time to come along and spend another $5 million on something that's only going to be used maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And the lady that spoke about it here said Vienna would take in $2 million a year. Hey, that lady's blowing smoke. That's not going to happen in Vienna. So all I'm saying is I'm definitely against it, but that's okay. We got a lot of other people here. And I think it's good that they're going to give you some input. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Tammy Rhodes.
I hate to follow Ethel. I will never be as entertaining as she is. Good evening. I'm Tammy Rhodes, another 4604 6th Avenue. I am addressing the proposal from the Thrasher Group today. As a candidate for City Council, I'm very interested in this process and how it is accomplished. As you know, on April 12th, the RFQ was published in the newspaper for a 3,000 to 4,000 seat amphitheater covered with amenities and parking. 5 firms interviewed based on that RFQ. We now have a proposal for a Spencer's Landing Amphitheater master plan stating the city requested this for a collection of properties along the Ohio River. The ones that have already been named, Spencer's Landing, Johns Manville Production, 12th Street, and the parcel behind them all. Then the proposal states that Thrasher Group will perform site visits at the parcel, and with this information and from meeting with the steering committee, begin to develop preliminary concept plans. They also state they will have a public open house facilitated by the city and design team, but this is after the preliminary concept plans are completed. So my question is, got these out of order. Can an RFQ that was published and that 5 firms interviewed for, which was the 3,000 to 4,000 seat amphitheater, parking and other buildings, be changed to a Spencer's Landing Amphitheater master plan for the entire Spencer's Landing property and 3 other parcels and other projects after a selection based on the RFQ was completed? Is this even legal? That's my question. Is it okay in a competitive process in which 4 other firms were obviously not aware? In the specifications for the RFQ, it states the city has the right to expand the scope of work through task orders assigned to the selected firm to include various projects that may or may not be included above in their document. I would hardly consider adding 3 other properties and all the other projects and things in that proposal as a task order change. Again, I'd like to know if this is legal for this to happen. I've said many times in the public forum that the city does not value public input. The city did their own survey and CEC did public hearings. There will always be differing opinions. There are people who do not want an amphitheater at all. and a few within the city that want this huge amphitheater with all the space that it will consume. However, the public input from what's been done shows that the public wants an amphitheater. Most of the public, including myself, love the amphitheater design Mr. Mancuso did with the concept drawing for Spencer's Landing that was adopted by council, with the lawn seating for concerts and green space that is flexible for a multitude of activities when it isn't being used for concerts, which would be the majority of the time. As I've also said here, the public wants a park setting. They want an amphitheater, but not the one the city is proposing. As others, who is the steering committee? Are they going to be basing design decisions that it states that they will make on what the citizens want or on what the city wants? Why would a public open house to seek input be done after preliminary concept designs are completed? That should be the first thing done. How could this company know where to head in the design without that input? We know how. They already have their public input, and it's not from the citizens. How did 3 other properties get in this proposal? Whose decisions were these, and how were they made, and why? A boat launch is mentioned in the plan. Why isn't a kayak launch a priority in this plan? We've had the flap grant since 2021, and it seems dead in the water. Nothing is being done. It may not be a priority for city administration, but it certainly is for the public. Again, look at public input that has been collected. Public input is the most important aspect of developing this project. The public wants a park, and they want a park for the people. They don't want this huge amphitheater that destroys the riverfront and the green space. And I am for an amphitheater, but not this one at all. And then I wanted to put this up because I've brought it before, and I think it's worth repeating, that the government is a servant of the people and not the master of them. The people in delegating authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for them, what is good for the people to know, and what is good for them to not know. People insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments of government they have created. And this is West Virginia Code 29B11.
Amy, you're done, ma'am.
I'm done.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Brian Flynn.
Thank you, council, and everybody here. Again, I'm up here because I hear everything that goes on in the past meetings. I've been here since January. I've heard people compliment. I've heard people degrade. It's back and forth. It's never going to end. I've been a resident of this city for 49 years. I grew up on 23rd Street. I rode my bike from 23rd down to Kmart, clear up to 55th Street. And one thing I can say is I always enjoyed the trails. Back there where Jimmy Harper had his company. There was a wooded area, rope swings, bike trails, you name it. Gave kids an area to play. And I think if we build this amphitheater down Spencer's Landing, it's going to take it more away. I propose, and I said this last meeting, that we need to start in stages and not just planning stages in general in building an amphitheater area, a multi-use area. You know, if we build it down by the mall, we already have the parking. If we build it at Spencer's Landing, we got to build a parking garage because there's no way there's 4,000 or 5,000 person capacity parking area down there. You got to be kidding me. So if you build it down by the mall, you got the parking. The other thing you have to look at is too, has anybody, and I said this at the last meeting, has anybody spoken to People's Bank in Marietta? See how they're pulling in their revenue from their concerts that they hold? What's the other place? What is it? Adelphia, yes, thank you. You know, how are they pulling concerts in up there? Where are they finding parking? We need to look at that, and we also need to look at and I don't know what the name of it is, it's a stern wheel. The guy tried to build a restaurant there going into Williamstown. And the CSX put a stop to that real quick, put a fence up, said nobody can cross over the railroad tracks. So if that's a problem in Williamstown, how's it going to be a problem or not a problem down here? Yes, you have open area, but we need to build a footbridge. Have a footbridge crossing over the railroad tracks or build a tunnel under it. Has anybody thought of that? That's all I have. Thank you.
Vicky Squires.
Good evening. I'm Vicki Squires. I've moved back to Vienna about 2.5 years ago after I grew up here. And I'm here to speak in regard to the amphitheater. I think an amphitheater at some point would be nice, but I don't think it's a great idea right now for the River Road area. What I have been hearing a lot of from folks around here is they would love to see river access for Spencer's Landing, which would give everyone boating, kayaking, whatever, jet ski, access to the river. I think a couple of really nice pavilions down there would be great. But most of all, I would love to see a nice dock out into the water as far as would be safe for parents to bring their children, grandparents to bring their children to fish, just swim off of if they wanted to, whatever. But right now, I don't think it's a real great idea after the money that's been spent on Jackson's pool, which I'm all for. I mean, I love the fact that it's a brand new pool for children and adults to enjoy. But I, right now, don't think it's a great idea to spend this money on an amphitheater and give some more consideration to whatever your prior plan is or possibly other small, different plans. Thank you.
Hello.
Tom, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're in the middle of our public forum, Tom, so if you will, just sit tight and we'll get on with the meeting after these folks are finished, all right?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Azinger has joined us by phone. Next up this evening would be Chad Emmerich.
Good evening, Chad Emmerich, 303 39th Street, Vienna, West Virginia. Before I share my comments this evening, I would like to personally thank everyone that's come out this evening. This is amazing. I've been coming to these for quite a while, and I believe this is one of the largest groups that I've seen. And I appreciate your support and you coming out. I also want to commend all of those that have shared before me. What you said has rang true with many residents across our city. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight I stand before you on behalf of many Vienna residents to share disappointment and concern for what is currently happening within our city. Our community is tired and frustrated of the wants of a few being forced upon the wills of the many. Our residents have continuously asked for Spencer's Landing and 12th Street properties to be developed around river access and green space. Never has it been requested for the completion of a mega amphitheater complex. The construction of a mega amphitheater has never been a priority or a desire for the majority of Vienna residents. I am also confused why we are here again, starting this process completely over. We already have multiple renderings. We have plans that have been developed, one of which by Councilmember Chris Mancuso, that was approved and adopted by this committee. Why do you now want to spend another $43,000 to get another plan drawn up? I also am concerned about who sat on this committee, who was appointed to it, and what went into it. What matrix was used for the scoring to select the Thatcher Group? Vienna residents do not want this mega amphitheater. I encourage this council tonight to stop pushing personal agendas and start actually representing the will of the people that they were elected to represent.
Jim Leach,
How many do you have after me?
one.
Go ahead and call whoever's next.
Kathy Boswell Davis.
Kathy Boswell Davis at 407 58th Street. A lot of items has already been mentioned that I was going to bring up, but I have been out in the community speaking with some of the residents, and I've come across a few that had their sidewalks dug up, and the city put them back and put steps down to the residents, and the drainage is not completely as it was, and they're stepping into mud and water to get up to the residents. One of the residents is 3901 Grand Central Avenue. I speak with the lady there, and I've been down to Spencer's Landing several times speaking with folks enjoying the river view. And they want their river access, the boat ramp, kayak ramp to, have that possibility. And they would like to have an amphitheater, some of them, but a small one, something like City Park has, and everyone can bring out their own chairs and, have it set back and, from the river. I don't think that we need a children's playground down by the river. I think keeping them up here at Jackson Park is good. I've drove by and there's not mega people. It's not overcrowded. It is being utilized at Jackson Park, but just for safety reasons. I believe if this amphitheater does go in and as big as you want it to be, and at times where it's going to be used in the season where there are times when the rain comes in those times and floods come in those times. And I believe that you will get your green, but it will be muck and mud and lots of cleanup. So, thank you.
Jim Leach.
Good evening, everyone. So I didn't prepare any remarks tonight, but when I saw how many people signed up and also some of the questions that have come up, like on social media that I've reviewed, I thought it might make some sense to talk for a couple of minutes before we get this meeting started as a citizen of Vienna. I've raised my children in Vienna, as many of you have. We're interested, as you've heard me say many times, in retaining our youth, doing things to develop the city.
Hey, Jim, would you speak in the microphone?
Sure. I'm actually going to move in a second anyway. But, so I thought it might, before we get started with the presentation, because the Thrasher Group has put a lot of time in this presentation, I think there's some misinformation. So, and in particular, the parcels referenced, I think it's Tony, is correct, that it's Spencer's Landing, Manville, 12th Street, and Grand Central Mall, okay? So when we're talking about this, we've been talking a long time about river development, you know, so we got Spencer's Landing on the river, we got the Manville production side, we got 12th Street down the road, and then we've got the mall all on the river. And these are the options that we have to consider for river access, which everybody seems to agree we want, all right? The size of the amphitheater and so on. So that's one thing. Those are. Now, who was on this committee? It was me, Jack Mathers, it was Craig Metz, and it was Ed Ball, okay?
Lindsay Pearsall.
And Lindsay Pearsall, I'm sorry. And so and this marks a total of 5 proposals that we've received. 6 if you include the Parks Master Plan, so it's 6. So we have the Parks Master Plan, which is really pretty thin on Spencer's Landing. We've got Mr. Mancuso's drawings and sketches, which were really early on, incorporated soccer fields and so on, because those were things that were presented to him, people had some interest in. Then we had Merit Chase, which was a group that Chris brought to our attention, did a presentation, which I was there for that presentation as well. And then we had 3 groups present. We had Thrasher, we had Burgess and Nyepel, who's been a long-time engineering firm for the city of Vienna, and then we had New River Engineers, and I'm familiar with New River because they've done some work for me. They're out of Charleston, a couple other locations, Athens, and so on. So I'm going to say we've had 6 proposals. We've had a lot of back and forth. Mary, am I on time?
A half.
Okay, so we've had 6 proposals looking at Spencer's Landing. We've had a lot of people. Chris said, we need to get going. I agree. We've had people say we need to put on the brakes. That's what Tony's saying right now. So here's what I'd say leading into this, that those are the people that were together to look at these. And then I will tell you that in selecting Thrasher and asking that, because I don't want to bear trap them tonight, you know, they want to come in here. They've done what we've asked them to do. And in their proposal, you know, I do the master plan, phasing, looking at all of the issues, saying nobody knows what's best for us. And by far, I think you will see and hear from them. They are head and shoulders, as Tony said, above qualified of anybody that we've talked to, and probably is available to us and within our reach to retain, to look at this and say, you know, because we've had, you know, it's too big. Why don't we use them all? We have all these options, and we have a group, and if you look at their qualifications and all the projects they've done in similar communities to help people understand and develop and say, you know, the mall is wide open. I mean, we've got the bike trail. We're trying to do things there. There's some opportunity there for the city. We don't know what it even is yet. Okay, so this is looking forward. So I want to go one thing real quick. We went on the kayak launch, and we spent $25 grand with Burgess and Nyepel, and we got a plan that never should have been developed. Okay, because it was unworkable for the kayak launch. The boat ramp to kayak launch, we're talking about, we have not given up. We have those grant monies available. So why not take the opportunity for a well-qualified firm to take the look at the assets that we have potentially available and say, you know, these are everybody's ideas that have come. Let's massage that in. I believe that we can adjust as far as any community participation we want. You know, it's pretty limited early with Spencer. We always talk about community involvement. I likewise am glad to see everybody's here. And I wonder how many people are here. I don't want to show hands. I'm just curious. How many people are here by invitation and how many people are here just because you're interested? Nobody said, hey, why don't you come to the meeting tonight? You just had enough interest to say, wow, I want to find out what's going on in the city of Vienna. Thank you.
We'll move on now to the report of the minutes. The minutes from the regular council meeting on June 13th, 2024 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. We have no unfinished business this evening, and so we'll move to new business. First item on our agenda this evening is a presentation. It is an update on the former Ohio Valley University property by Dr. Torrey Jackson and Brian Taylor.
Hello, thank you for inviting us to come tonight. I am Tori Jackson. I am the president of WVU Parkersburg, and tonight we're going to share with you some plans that are being done by the WVU Parkersburg Foundation. With me is Ryan Taylor, who is the CEO and president of Pickering and Associates and is the project manager for what we are doing. I'm going to start broad for just a moment and let you know that the former OVU has been purchased by the WVU Parkersburg Foundation. We had a $10 million gift that allowed us to do that purchase. It was a $4.6 million purchase for 255.22 acres. Our plan with that property is to see it developed, and we are working with the Wood County Development Authority on that project. However, for the part that used to be the academic hall, Stott's Academic Hall, for any of you who remember that part of OVU, we will be turning it into a campus of WVU Parkersburg, and it will be an innovation and technology center. It's an exciting project because we will be moving our computer science and computer information technology programs to that facility. We also are planning to add some engineering into it as well. We are excited because with that opportunity, we're able to continue some of the projects that we've started, which allow us to bring technology companies into our facilities and lease some of the space and give a place for students to work. So our students learn in one part of the building and they can be employed in another part of the building. We believe over time that we will be able to have 25 different employers doing some light manufacturing, meaning maybe 3D printing and that type of technology-based business, and also other technologies. If you think about what happens in colleges all across the country, some of the greatest technology that you've ever experienced occurs through those who are sitting in dorm rooms and doing really great work. If you like Uber, things like that, you probably know that that came from great college student ideas over time. So we are very excited about what the Innovation and Technology Center is, and we want to tell you a little bit about where we're at. So you do know that OVU closed the state had to close it because they were unable to fulfill their obligations. It sat empty for quite a while, and as a result of that was in great disrepair. I'll say it was in disrepair before it closed. It definitely was in disrepair by the time it was able to be purchased. It took us a long period of time, almost a year, to be able to fulfill the purchase after we first submitted a bid on the property. So it deteriorated even more. Ryan Taylor has been fabulous to work with us. And one of the first things that we had to accomplish once we did successfully get the property in November of 23 was to get heat in it. You know, property that is not occupied and without heat continues to deteriorate at a very fast level. So our first project was to get heat, and we have accomplished that part. We're doing a lot, this summer. He could probably show you our timeline. We're working on a 510-day timeline right now. This summer, we're working on continuing to fix the roofs on the building. We're working on asbestos removal because there's a lot of asbestos that remains in that property, and we want to go ahead and remove all of it now. We are putting a sprinkler system in the building because it did not have one. We're working on a cooling system, not that we'll have it this summer, but we're working on it. And what did I miss? Electrical updates. We actually have a very large electrical update for that facility. So it was, what was there, I would just say was very dated. So we're very excited. And underwater. So we're very excited about that opportunity. It is a very expensive project. The WVU Parkersburg Foundation continues to raise funds to be able to fulfill this project, but we think that it's a very exciting opportunity for the city of Vienna and Wood County, because not all of the property is in the city of Vienna, but the part that the foundation plans to gift that building back to the college once they have it renovated, and that will be within your city limits. So we're very, very anxious for the possibilities of what will come, and we know it's going to be good things. And Ryan, would you like to talk a little bit about some of those details, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So did you mention windows and doors?
Oh, I should also say, yes, we are working on replacing all the windows and doors in the Stotts Administration Hall. The Wood County Development Authority was able to secure a $1.25 million congressional grant to allow us to do that. And I should also say that the state West Virginia Water Development Authority has also given us $700,000 to be able to work on some roofs.
There's 468 windows in that building. So it's a big undertaking. Some of the details, the electrical service
Ryan?
has never really
You guys
been
scoot over here.
There's a handheld
updated.
mic if you need it.
We're good. So the electrical service has never been updated. We've done a good job. We have 2 new services coming in. So that's well underway. We've had several outages. We have a new chiller that will be here in October. The school really never had air conditioning to begin with. Only had air conditioning in ground and first floor. So we're going to have air conditioning on all 3 floors, well, all floors, which is exciting. There was asbestos all over it. And so we have contractors working on their 3rd floor. They're doing it in phases. So we also opened bids yesterday for the roofs. And so we got good bids. We had 3 contractors participate. So we are working quickly. The city's worked well with us with permitting, with trying to get pipes and valves for the tank. So thank you, Mayor Rapp, to help get that done. We're trying to isolate the water system around the campus because, unfortunately, OVU did not have the funds and they did not really maintain that facility. So we have a goal that we would like to have a portion of the campus open in 25. And that is a big, big ask. So that is going to be,
It's going to happen.
yes, it's going to happen. So things we're going to have on campus. I don't think she mentioned the daycare.
No, I didn't mention that we also are working with a local daycare to be able to allow them to relocate to that location and to expand and almost double, if not triple, depending on who all wants to be involved with that project. So there are potentially some companies that want to secure some spots in that daycare because they don't have a daycare themselves. So a lot of good things for the community can come as a result. This is showing a portion of the former dorms, and it's also showing the Stotts Academic Hall, which we are currently renovating. That's where all of our focus is right now from the WVU Parkersburg Foundation lens, and that's the reason why we have partnered with the Wood County Development Authority. We're an educational institution, and we're not designers or planners. So when it comes to being able to do other things on the property, potentially a housing development, we need the assistance of those who do it every day and are very skilled in it. We have very early drawings of what that could be. Some of the exciting things are that we can build it with adding a playground and other facilities that will be good for that community and also for the students who attend there. We currently have 136 students that are in those programs alone, and within 3 years, our enrollment plan is to move that to 300 and then continue to grow. WVU Parkersburg as a whole has 2,500 students.
So what you're seeing right now is some concepts. We would like to have some other accesses to the campus. And so, nothing is finalized on our property or connection to your guys' facilities or your properties. But, in the coming years, we're going to want to talk about how to get other access. There's only one access to the campus right now. So as things progress, and we're focusing on the Stotts Administration Building first, but we will definitely want to develop the 250 acres in this campus. So I think we've talked a lot.
We have. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a couple.
Okay.
And maybe not so much to the development of the property, but, innovation technology. And so what kind of a student body size are you talking or contemplating here?
So our initial plan is to get 300 students into that area within the first 3 years of it being open.
With the advent of AI and how fast that technology is moving, how much of the curriculum or focus is going to be in that area of development?
Exciting news is that we're the only community college in the state that's been able to partner with Amazon Web Services and be part of the Tech Alliance for West Virginia. So we have the opportunity to develop a new degree in cloud computing. And working with Amazon, they're actually examining all of our curriculum and helping us evaluate where we need to improve it because they are one of the leaders in AI right now.
Okay, so follow up to that question. Of these 300 students, obviously your draw is going to be
beyond our 7-county region. Yes, it could
right.
be.
Okay, and that's your goal, right?
It is.
Right. Okay.
We focus on our 7-county region, but if we draw from beyond it, we don't mind.
I understand. Well, and like as you said, some of the curriculum you're offering and kind of because my understanding of just how quickly, in particular, this AI technology is moving is astounding.
It is.
So one of the things like Henry Sasson have brought some data about our shrinking population and the need for jobs. The jobs and the kind of training that you're doing. A lot of those jobs would be amenable to people working from home and remotely and
Absolutely.
so on. So we could even, like the Ascend program, that has been developed in other parts of the state, is designed to draw those kinds of people. And this facility is going to also lend itself to making people familiar with our area. They come here, they get trained. Hey, this is a nice place
Right.
to live. I can work from anywhere. I'm staying.
We
Right.
will be able to employ people in very good paying jobs where they can stay local.
So then finally, on the childcare issue, which is a pet project of mine right now, I have probably a dozen employees who have children who run into this, and I have spouses. We're pretty close family businesses and so on. On the daycare, one of the things that I'm just going to put a bug in your ear because it's what I think is what's missing from anybody's daycare program, and quite frankly, that's a sick bay. Okay, because what kills us every time is when, and Tony and people in this room that have kids, two spouses, if you're fortunate enough to have a stay-at-home parent to raise children, that's great. But when a kid's sick, somebody's staying home. And like I have, my daughter and my son-in-law both work for me in different businesses, and I lose one. And they flip a coin, and it goes different. But anyway, so that, I don't know. It doesn't sound that unmanageable if kids got a sniffle and something you don't want to put them in school, that you might be able to have a little quarantine area. So that's just something I want to mention.
Thank you for that consideration.
I think it's really what gets people. They can arrange and they can have daycare all day long, and then that happens and it's wham. You're stuck. Somebody's stuck. And it could be on a really bad day, which I've experienced. So those were all my questions and the one thing I wanted to offer.
Thank you. We're in the early stages of developing the idea of the daycare and working with some daycare providers. So we will bring that idea to the table.
Sorry, you said companies. So what do you intend to make daycare? Is that just for your students? Is this something that you're going to make available to the community?
It will be available to the community. Our students
wonderful.
also will have access, but we are looking at a community daycare that needs to relocate and being able to locate it in this facility.
That would be awesome. Okay, thank you.
So to build on Jim's questions, why don't you spend just a second and tell about all the other colleges and universities you've visited? I mean, you've been all over this country getting ideas.
We have. We've gone to lots of different institutions around the country and have had the opportunity with our funder to visit some of those and gather ideas on what makes a good innovation and technology center. And we will build a state-of-the-art facility. And I guess a lot more details will come about that over time. But we're doing a lot of research. I do. I love lighting and really great lighting, and I send him lots of lighting photos.
Ryan, could you move your drawing up slightly so we can see where I'm assuming the red line is the boundary line of the OVU property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so where on the bottom side of I don't see the bottom side of the red line.
Sorry, there's
So this is the former South Campus down here, and this right here is the Fox Dining Hall, if you can see that.
And this is in Cova Health?
Mm-hmm. And that's in the middle of the property. The Fox Dining Hall is also a facility that the college plans to keep, and hopefully our ultimate goal is to be able to turn it, and I say this as an early goal, it is to turn it into a law enforcement training academy. We just have to be able to make sure that we can secure the funding for that.
So as you come back up, the blue line with the white in the center of it there is a proposed road that you would come down. Stop.
This is weird.
Yes, those are proposed roads.
Yes, those are proposed roads that you're looking at.
Just early on that, to give other additional access to the campus, eventually we will come talk to, and I'm assuming we'll put a planning team together to discuss that.
Okay, so that's my question. The lowest blue line that you have on there appears to be some sort of a housing development or whatever right there.
Right here?
No, down towards you.
This one?
Nope, down.
I think he's talking
Down
here.
Yeah, so this.
I will ask you my question later. Thank you so much. Gee.
So this is Windermere. So this is 12th Avenue.
Yeah.
Is that your question?
But what? Come on down. What's the next one?
I don't follow what you're saying.
Put a finger up there. Down. Keep going all the way down in the corner.
I pointed that one already.
The housing development that's right there below the white line.
Here
Yes.
and here.
So
This
it's already there.
This is Windmere Drive,
Got that?
Yeah.
and this is Windmere Way.
That was the former Stewart Hall dorms that were sold and made into assisted living.
Right here, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, that's part of the campus that's already
Yeah.
been sold and is assisted living.
okay, thank you.
So it's up the road from Fox.
Okay,
So
thank
all these maps were provided by Craig, so thanks, Craig. So Thrasher has an aerial company I bought these maps off of.
If you want it done right, hire a professional, thank you. Ouch.
The thing that we want to do with these roads as well is we want to build bike paths on them because we realize, you may not realize that not everybody is in a hurry to get their license when they turn 16 anymore. And as a college president, we have a lot of students who don't have access to cars and quite frankly don't have their driver's license when they come to college. So if we have an opportunity for them to use bicycles or walk and be able to get down to Vienna or to Grand Central to where they could have other jobs as well, then that's something that we're hoping to be able to do. And we do enjoy biking, my family does, and we want to be able to connect some of the city's trails into this area as well.
All right, any questions for them?
I do want to say thank you for, we've had lots of issues with vandalism, security, and people just being up there. And the Vienna Police has been visiting when we call, and so thank you for that, because it's been
a lot.
Mayor, on that, I have a quick statement or question. You look down in the far left corner, I think you can see the water towers for Vienna, and I live below that. And I've contacted your office a couple of times about homeless camps.
Yes, we've contacted the Vienna police about that more than once.
Well, they've told me there's nothing they can do, it's the county. And I personally have had stuff stolen from my property.
I walked down to those are they're real.
Yeah, and the one time the county come out, they said they could just tell him to leave. They ended up arresting him because he was cooking meth when they went up there. So they ended up arresting him and bringing him out. But there's been 4 or 5 that are currently going up.
Still a problem. Well, we'll contact the sheriff's department as well. This is an interesting property on our side. Part of it's in the city of Vienna and part of it is in Wood County. So it blends a little.
And that's hard to access when you come from where you're at, where you're developing. It's almost a cliff.
We've experienced a lot of interesting vandalism that takes some effort.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me if I wanted the stuff. They're cooking drugs and they have fires up there. I'm worried about the wood line burning down to the houses on 15th Avenue.
Right.
Not just mine, but several others. And there's a lot of elderly who live in my area. So again, not to put a damper, it's fantastic what you're doing. I just wanted to bring note that we do still have a problem with the homeless.
We actually have some people that are not supposed to be living in the dorms. We have to roll, so.
Early enrolling.
But we do.
Corey, thank you for taking
Yes.
the time to come this evening.
Our pleasure. And we will continue to give you updates as we move along. We think it's going to be an exciting development for all of Vienna and all of Wood County.
All right, thank you so much,
You're
Ryan.
welcome.
Thank you for your time. The next item on our agenda this evening is the Community Development Block Grant Program for this year. Tony Tiano.
Hello. The city of Vienna is estimated to receive $107,826 for the upcoming 2024-2025 program year for its CDBG funds. And it is being proposed that these funds be spent as follows: $23,000 for the energy efficient windows and doors program, $68,826 for the minor home improvement program, which consists of HVACs, roofs, gutters and downspouts, hot water tanks, and $16,000 for planning and administration. It's estimated that these funds will reach 11 households, 11 low to moderate income households, to be able to get their home improved that they otherwise might not be able to do so. During the past year, we did 11 homes and improved again some of those for people who would not have otherwise been able to do so. The city takes, applications on a first come, first serve for anyone who qualifies based upon the income limits. We've had our public hearing. We received positive comments on our proposal, and we're ready to, if council approves, send it to the HUD Pittsburgh office.
And part of the process is if we do a project, there is a lien.
Yes, a lien is placed on their property. It's on there for 5 years. For each year that they live in that house, 20% of the funds are forgiven. So at the end of the 5-year time period, the entire amount would be forgiven. If they sell it anywhere in that time period based upon the length of time that they've lived there, then a portion would be returned to the city of Vienna.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Skogstad, would you read that, please?
This is the CDBG resolution. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Vienna that the following projects be included in the 2024-2025 Community Development Block Grant application. 1, Housing Energy Efficient Windows and Door Replacement Program, $23,000. Minor Home Improvement Program, Roof Gutters, Downspouts, HVAC, $68,826. 2, Planning and Administration, $16,000 for a total of $107,826,000. On the adoption of this resolution, the City Council of the City of Vienna hereby adopts the attached annual action plan for the 2024-2025 Community Development Block Grant Program and hereby authorizes submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Pittsburgh office.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the CDBG resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion?
So, Tony, I know we've had in the past, you've mentioned first come, first serve.
Yes.
And sometimes we have a bit of trouble getting people to come forward and understand the program, but you've been exhausting the available funds in our community.
Lately, this probably about 2 years ago, the city undertook what I'm going to say is a very extensive marketing program, and we are out of funds again.
And that we're still doing that to keep you front and center of people's attention to get these.
Yes, it's
improvements
in the
made?
city's newsletter, however often the newsletter comes out. A lot of it we get from word of mouth.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution, please say, he's gone.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Easinger dropped off.
Okay.
All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Tony, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda this evening is the presentation by the Thrasher Group to explain what they've been working on. On the bottom.
So first we'll do introductions. Craig Baker, architecture, principal in charge of architecture for the Thrasher Group. I'm actually based out of our Bridgeport, West Virginia office.
My name's Sam Rich, professional landscape architect, and I run our land development market, which consists of landscape architects and civil engineers, and we do a lot of municipal parks and recreation, master planning work. Started in our Bridgeport office 10 years ago, but I live in Beckley, which is my hometown now. So that's just a little bit about us. I guess just to address to the community who we are, if you are okay with that, I'd like to tell people just a little bit about our company and who we are and what we do. So Thrasher has been in business. We celebrated our 40th year in business last year. We started in 1983 as a municipal water and sewer engineering company. That's how the company, when Woody and his father Henry started the business, that's what they did. As we grew and diversified over time, we've added services like master planning and architecture. We have a transportation group. We have an environmental group now. We've diversified and grown to the company that we are today, which is over 300 people, and we are the largest West Virginia headquartered architecture and engineering firm. That doesn't mean that we're the biggest architecture and engineering firm that has an office in West Virginia, just the biggest one that was founded here. We're passionate about community development projects, economic development in West Virginia. Craig and I are both native West Virginians. We could rattle off the list of municipalities that we've worked for. We work all over the state, and this is an exciting opportunity. We've heard and taken notes on a lot of the comments that we've received tonight, and I'll also just maybe start with an apology that I feel like we left some things out of our proposal that could have been clarified and maybe put a lot of the concern at ease about how we go about our master planning process. When we do community projects, we value that they are community projects and they're not just done by the decisions of a few people. These are public dollars, whether they're local Vienna dollars or they're state dollars or federal dollars. So part of this process that we typically would go through, we oftentimes will start by doing community engagement on the front end, doing a public survey to start the engagement process, to ask direct targeted questions about how people see the project envisioned. Not always, but sometimes we'll do a public workshop after we have those survey results to share with the community what was said in the survey, what the priorities for the project were. Sometimes we won't necessarily do that. We'll do that as part of the first open house we have identified in our proposal that you all have been reviewing. A lot of times we like to come with ideas and concepts for consideration. And a lot of times those concepts are very different. There's not a one-size-fits-all solution to the ideas or the problems. So we'll come with armed with a variety of different alternatives to share with the community, break out into workshop sessions where people can interact with our members of our design team and give feedback. Really, that's how we kind of come up with the master plan. And part of what our proposal is also trying to do is to help you figure out what's feasible at this property. We say this all the time. Clients will come to us with ideas, and we sometimes have to be the bad guys that say, that's a terrible idea, or sometimes it's a great idea, we're going to help you make it happen. Part of this planning process is to figure out what works here and what doesn't work. Certainly, we as a company value what the community thinks. We never want to move forward without the full support of them. So I would love to address any comments or questions that council has about our proposal. And if you don't want to vote on it tonight, take feedback at how we can improve it. And possibly there's a community workshop we could participate in advance of executing an agreement. I just, we don't want to be the bad guys. There's obviously a lot of strong opinions about this project, and we want to do what's best for the community. So certainly just want to start with that and entertain any questions you all have about our scope of work and how this process works.
Well, first off, let me say this. You're not the bad guys. We invited you here. We went by the process that we've done for requests for qualifications. Obviously, you've had lots of experience in these kind of developments. And so the issue that we have is there are some things that are in the contract that we got from you all that we need to tighten up. Mm-hmm. All right. But I was not part of that selection group, so I've never seen the presentation that you made. The way it was explained to me was, wait till you see what these guys can do and hear their presentation. It's fantastic. Now, that's what was given to me. I would like to hear your presentation, and perhaps that will change some people's minds based on your experience and what you actually bring to the table.
Yeah, I think to build on that, so the process for the community's understanding is we submit a qualifications package that basically lists out our team, lists our relevant experience, and then we're shortlisted. And in this case, there were multiple firms shortlisted, and we came in and we gave a presentation. And, the presentations are tricky. particularly with a fairly undefined scope of work, right? I mean, we looked at this project as we have a relatively raw piece of property, that there have been obviously ideas that have been put out there. There have been things put on paper that we knew needed to be refined. And in order to refine those, we have to do what's called basically a conceptual schematic design, charrette for fancy word, process that we go through. And what that process entails generally is initially a brainstorming session. And I'm going to present this as we presented to the selection committee as to how we felt this project needed to be handled. And what we presented, Mayor, is that we really felt like in order for this project to be a success, we need to start relatively at ground zero because we are a new consultant brought to the table. Now, that doesn't mean that we're unaware of what Councilman Mancuso's put together and the other folks that you've had involved, all extremely qualified, very, very great at what they do, people involved in this process. So what we presented was we said, let's start at ground zero, realizing that there has been some work done in the past, and let's figure out how we can move this ball along. As someone mentioned, I think this has been a 3, 4, 5 year project. And in our business, if projects don't get built, we're not successful in the consulting world. I mean, let's just call it what it is. We have to be able to pull the ideas out of the people. We have to be able to please council and the needs that you all have. We have to figure out how to get the project funded. And then we have to put together the plans and specifications to be able to build it and oversee construction. We are handling this as we're at the very infancy of this project. Now, we're going to take what's been done. We're going to evaluate it. I think certainly we need public input. As I looked through my notes, about the 6th note down, it said, Council says public input is very important, exclamation point. So to quell any notions that there are ideas or things that have been decided, there's not. And while I think there has been certainly some opposition to this project, but it's our job to kind of pull out of that what the common threads are. And I think the common threads that were discussed tonight, it's not full opposition to an amphitheater. Maybe it's the scale of the amphitheater. River access was huge. I can tell you that was one of the things we presented in our presentation was Ohio River property is extremely valuable, and we need to figure out how we can get access to the river. And we know there's grant money that you have in hand, but we can figure out how to do that. And we have completed these projects in other parts of the state. Morgantown at the Hazel Ruby McQueen Amphitheater and Park. Ravenswood, we're working on a kayak launch now. So we have a number of these examples that we have completed, and we presented those ideas to the selection committee. We also had to present alternatives for funding. How do we foresee this project potentially being funded? And 90% of the work that we do at Thrasher is publicly funded projects, whether it be for municipalities, county commissions, school boards, et cetera. And in doing that, you have to really get creative and look for ways to be able to finance projects. Now, in this instance, we're extremely fortunate because we have Lindsay with the Development Authority who is engaged, which will help with searching for grant sources, help with grant applications. We will support those efforts through what we presented, Mayor, essentially creating preliminary engineering reports, documents that will go out to the funding agencies that will promote your project, sell the idea so that you can begin to get traction. I think we would be foolish collectively if we thought we could go out in one fell swoop and fund this entire project, soup to nuts. Those types of things just don't happen that regularly in West Virginia. So I think the biggest part that we proposed in our presentation was we said, listen, we need a master plan. We need to start, we need to figure out what we're going to build and what are the options to build. And we can't do that without getting the public input, without the selection committee's input, without taking what has already been put together, refining it, and coming to some common ground. Now, unfortunately, in our business, you're never going to reach common ground 100%. But what we can get is a majority vote that allows us to take to the next step. And Once we get to that point and we understand what things cost, we identify funding sources. We very aggressively pursue, help our municipalities pursue monies to be able to put these projects together. And we showed multiple examples, Mayor, of the things that we have done. And amphitheaters, boat launches, soccer fields, tennis courts, pavilions, broad brush, everything across the scope of what we do was presented. Playgrounds, bike trails, skate parks, you name it. Because at this point, somebody mentioned Picasso. You know, we're not Picasso by any stretch, but we do have to look at things as a blank canvas. And it's our job to be able to pull those ideas and sort those ideas, identify the good ideas, the bad ideas, and put it on paper. So we did not bring the presentation that we did in our interview. Our interview was pretty brief. It was pretty heavy questions from the selection committee. But what we did is the process that I just outlined for you is really what we told the committee that needed to be done. Is you don't know what you're going to build until we identify what the real opportunities are. And certainly you cannot do these types of projects without extreme public input, both face-to-face, virtual surveys, because some people don't like to put their opinions out there. And then we formulate that into something tangible.
So in a few minutes, I'm going to ask to table this until our next meeting, and we will get a little better definition. But Tori, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay, I'm sorry. You have the most experience in this room of all of us, okay? And I have to explain to you, the public out there, that there are things that go on in government that you just can't talk about. You can say whatever you want about transparency. You can make that argument that, you know, the public has a right to know, and yes, they do. But when you're working on projects that involve pieces of property and development and things like that, there are pieces of the puzzle that you're trying to put together that people don't want the details known until they're ready to make that announcement. Because it's a matter of pride for them to come in and say that WVUP is now the owner of Ohio Valley University. That's a big deal. That will impact our city for years. And so when the document came and they listed the piece of property at the Grand Central Mall, Mr. Mancuso has been working for probably the last 2 years with the Alternative Transportation Council to get the bike trail completed from Parkersburg all the way through us, all the way to Marietta, through Williamstown. And so we have been working diligently with the Grand Central Mall and their ownership company to try to get that done. And so when this is listed in there, we're very encouraged that we're going to get that done. But we can't tell you that we're going to get it done until people in another city that have management experience say, okay, we'll do that. We have offered to, years ago, they offered to give it to us. And so now we've offered to take it. If they're still willing to give it to us, we'll take it. If they won't let us have it for whatever reason, that we would lease it as a long-term basis to put the bicycle trail through that. Now, that bicycle trail could be just grindings, it could be, gravel, it could be whatever. There would not be a major cost to the city of Vienna to do that, but it would complete that trail from the city of Parkersburg up to the Grand Central Mall. And so those are the things that we're working on, but for us to say that we have that done, we do not. But we're very encouraged because we have contact with them on a regular basis. And as with everything else, with a large corporation, there are details and paperwork that have to be done. And so, and I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say this, but I'm tired of it. So I'm going to tell you. Okay? I'm done.
I have no idea what you're going to say.
I understand that. I get it. Well, you know what? I will do my best to. And the reason why I said I was going to put you on the spot, Tori, is when you made your presentation a few minutes ago, you made a comment about you all received a $10 million grant from one of the local foundations. Takes a long time to get that done, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it's one of those things where the people that have the large foundations are very private people, and they do not want that made public. They don't. That's the way they do business. All right? And so I'm going to guess 2 years ago, I was approached and said, there is a large foundation that is interested in working on an amphitheater. And I said, wow, I mean, that's fantastic because we would never have an opportunity to do that. And they asked us to do certain things in order to prove that it would be feasible. And so we contracted with WVUP, and they did the cost analysis, cost benefit study. Senta Gowdy did it for us. And it has some interesting numbers in there about other things that were done. And so we checked the box off that request. All right? And so now we move forward and we look at this, and we went out for an RFQ to get the best possible plan that we can get for that location. And yes, the FLAP grant is still in play. We still have that award. And the reason why it's taken so long is because we've never gotten a dime. It's like every other government grant that you get, they award it to you, and then when they appropriate the money, then they send you your money. And so without their money, we're not going to do it. But when you compare the elevation and all of the other things that are on the riverfront, as you gentlemen pointed out, and as Mr. Leach knows very well, riverfront property is at a premium. And yes, everybody here would like to fish. They would like to have a way to dock a boat. They'd like to be able to get off the boat, come up into Spencer's Landing and do whatever. It is a fantastic opportunity. And I know several people made the comment about what a legacy it will be. And it will. But it is not as easy as going from step A to step B. There are so many hurdles and hoops to jump through. All right? And you all were very fortunate that the foundation that you all had funded your operation. It's, and Ryan, I know, has contributed heavily to this entire process because he drives the community. I know that. All right? And so we have an opportunity here where we went through the process. We did a request for qualifications. We interviewed multiple engineering firms. And these gentlemen, as they put it to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, they knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely.
Head and shoulders. It was the best presentation that this group of people had. And so when you look and you keep asking about, who's on this committee? Well, Lindsay Pearsall is the head of the Wood County Development Authority. Jim Leach is a developer himself and an attorney. Jack Mathers is the man that we selected to do our economic development. Ed Ball is a gentleman that has years of experience in purchasing, and he represents the public sector because he's done a lot of these things. And Lindsay Pearsall is the head of the Wood County Economic Development Authority, which we also signed a contract with to represent us. I don't see how you could have a better group of people that would listen to the presentations that were made and make an intelligent decision on what to do. Will this ever come true? I have no idea. But I can tell you, these are the kind of opportunities that you do not let slide. Do your due diligence, and we've done it. We've done it. We've been working on Spencer's Landing now, Jim, for many, many years. We're still waiting on the paperwork for the industrial side. It's not our fault. It's, things move so slowly with government that it's like going to the dentist. It's painful. All right? And so we will get it. I mean, we've done everything they've asked us to do, but do we have it yet? No, we don't. All right? So Gentlemen, we'll,
Can we ask questions before this gets tabled?
Hello.
All right, Tom, we're just bringing you back into the discussion from the Thrasher Group. They gave a brief summary of, not their proposal, but the process that they use. And now council is going to discuss it.
so as I spoke earlier, I would like to move that we table this to the next meeting, give an opportunity for our city attorney to tweak your agreement, all right? And then we'll present it to you in plenty of time, and then we'll bring you back. And if it's council's desire, then we will move forward with that. Is that acceptable?
That's more than fair. Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved to table to the next meeting? All right? All right?
Hold on. My recollection, before we take a vote, is if you're going to move the table to table something, that's going to end all discussion.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're clear.
Yes. So it's been moved and seconded.
And when I say end all discussion, I mean tonight.
Can't take any minutes.
Yes. It's been moved and seconded that we table this discussion until the next council meeting. All those in favor, please counsel.
Okay. All right, so this is the vote to say whether or not you want to table the discussion. Ms. Williams?
No, these gentlemen are here. I'd like to ask some questions this evening.
Jim, or I'm sorry, yeah, Mr. Leach?
Yes, I mean, it's been requested that we not take this up for a vote as far as the availability of discussion or questions. I don't know. But yes, and my vote is yes.
Mr. Azinger?
No. Yes, because I moved the table.
Okay. Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say no. Mr. Mancuso?
I say no.
All right, then it fails 3-3. Gentlemen, if you have the time, then we will open this up for discussion.
I voted to,
To table it, yes, sir, Tom? It was 3-3,
oh,
so it didn't pass.
yes.
Okay. All right, we'll open it up for council questions now.
Okay, so as far as this process, this is why I voted not to table it. If we need to make some amendments or something, or to tweak the contract in some way, whatever people felt like needed to be tightened up, I'm fine with that. But coming from my experience with the pool process, understanding that this is essentially saying we're hiring you and now the fun starts, right? This is when we can really start getting the input from the community, having the surveys, do all that kind of stuff. The request for qualifications is not based on a dollar amount. It's based on qualifications. And so that team is recommending you to us as the people who are going to get it done for us. You've given us your fee proposal, which was that next part of it, and now it's up to us as a governing body to decide whether or not we agree, not just with your qualifications, but in saying, all right, we're willing to pay X dollars to you because you're going to start ushering us through this process. Understanding that's not no decisions have been made. And I like how you described that you've kind of gone back to ground zero. You're seeing it as a raw piece of property. And I think coming constructively from, somebody who we are officially hiring, we want to know if anything we are thinking about doing is a bad idea. Whether it's location on the property or the actual item, whatever it is, we need your professional eyes on this to tell us how to proceed. And you're going to hear things from the community because that's what you do anyway. With people all over the state, you're listening to them, and then how to. We're not the professionals on this. we know what we expect out of our community, and then you show us how to mold it into something that's going to actually deliver. And so I am satisfied with saying, yes, I am prepared to hire you and accept this proposal. And that's why I voted not to table it, because I think that we are at the place where we could move forward with it. That wasn't a question at all. That was me just talking at you. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. But okay, so here's my question then. From your vantage point, from what you hear from council, what you've heard from the community so far, from your taking a second look at what you've already sent us, what are the areas that need tweaked? Are these deal breakers? Is there something that I'm not seeing out of my unprofessional eyes? What do we need to make right in order to say yes? What is it that you guys have seen that we need to tweak?
I think and I've already kind of elaborated on it, but I think the front end community engagement piece maybe needs to be a little bit more emphasized than it has been. Certainly, just to kind of also elaborate on the process, it's called West Virginia Code 5G, is any project where a local government or state body is hiring an architect or engineer, and the cost of the project is over $250,000, which the total project for this would be. They have to go out and do this qualifications-based process. You rank in order who you thought was most qualified, and then you negotiate a fee proposal with that firm. That does not mean you have to accept the number that we give you or the scope of work that we give you. So part of what I want feedback on from you all is, if you're not totally 100% sold on this scope of work or the fee for whatever the scope of work is going to be, then that's part of the process. If you don't come to an agreement with the number one ranked firm, that allows you to start negotiations with the second ranked firm. So just so we're being transparent about how that process works, and I think there could stand to be more community engagement on the front end of the process, just to kind of get all-encompassing feedback on these specific properties and how they could be utilized, what they could be utilized for. I think that there's already been some ideas thrown out about various sizes of amphitheaters or uses at the park, and we would ask feedback on at Spencer's Landing, what types of recreational uses would you enjoy here, or do you think would benefit from? Some of that work's already been done. The master plan that was done for the overall Parks and Rec plan, there's a whole word chart on there that says exactly what people wanted to see at Spencer's Landing. Amphitheater was the biggest word because it got the most responses, but that's very much undefined as to what does that mean. We've worked on amphitheaters that are little community gathering spaces, and then we've worked on amphitheaters that probably hold 1,000 people or more. And then we've worked on spaces that have stages that are multi-use. There's a lot of comment tonight about don't do a project that's just an amphitheater. When we met with the steering committee for the first time, I brought up Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. It's an amphitheater. It holds 10,000 people, but it's a park. People are there doing yoga. People are running. People are bird watching. And a lot of the projects that we referenced in our experience in Morgantown, Fairmont, they're not just amphitheaters. Mm-hmm. They are multi-use park projects where we have master planned them and come up with how they're going to be used throughout the year, but can accommodate larger events. Slack Plaza, one of my projects in Charleston, was a renovation project we did on a half-acre downtown site. It has a small stage that has a big green associated with it, and any average day of the week, there's food trucks there, there's people enjoying the green space, there's a small little splash feature, but they have their summertime regatta festivals in downtown Charleston, and there'll be thousands of people around this small little stage in the middle of the city. So I think it's all about starting the community engagement process the right way. I think we could factor that into the proposal. There was a gentleman who commented on our determination of what was reasonable from a schedule standpoint. We could certainly outline a schedule of milestones, and that is somewhat very dependent on you all as well. We need your help in scheduling meetings, when we're going, when you expect us to be here in the community, interacting with the public, and when we request a steering committee meeting to review concepts. I mean, we depend on you all to help keep the process moving. So we can outline a schedule and certainly do our best to stick to that and get this done in a reasonable amount of time. Most planning projects like this would take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, just depending on how complex they are and how in-depth you get with your community engagement and public process. This is a hard thing to write a scope of work for, just being honest, because it's very open-ended. I mean, we're being asked to take your vision, tell you how much it's going to cost, how we think you can fund it, and it's kind of hard to put it in writing. We tried to be as detailed as we could be, but it's actually kind of good to get this feedback tonight, because now I know what I'm not going to do the next time we write one of these. So.
No, you can't. You're last. Any further discussion?
Yeah, can I guess I have several questions for you guys. My first question, and maybe it's not directed towards you all, but towards council, is the steering committee mentioned in this proposal the same as the steering committee that voted and approved or did the matrix for the RFQ process, or is that a different set of people?
I think that's an administration question for the mayor.
I wasn't part of either one of those, Chris, so I can't tell you that. Craig, you were on it. Jack, you were on it. Jim.
My question. Yeah, is the steering committee that's mentioned in this proposal?
It's going to be the same people
that did the RFQ.
Well, no, I don't believe we've established a steering committee yet. We did the RFQ committee, but until we accept their bid, we've not done that.
Okay, so.
Say something. I mean, you all did our steering committees, correct?
We do.
Who is the majority of people on that committee? I mean, it isn't far, residents here, council, people that work for the city. I mean, that should all be included in the steering committee, correct?
Absolutely.
So we try to do with you all. So you can give recommendations on steering committee. Chris, I know you've been part of it too. I mean, with steering committees, right?
Well, no, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that we understand who's going to be on that steering committee. I think the public is very concerned about that. There were several comments this evening about who is on that steering committee. And it's very clear that we should definitely have some folks from the public be part of that, as well as, a member or two of council who are going to be voting on these things. But I just want to make sure that that's very clear and open. My other question, I guess, and this can go to you guys, or I guess whoever helped kind of come up with the proposal, is how did we go from talking about, Spencer's Landing and the Spencer's Landing amphitheater to all of a sudden almost 75 acres plus or minus of probably developable land? I mean, that's a huge change in scope, and I just want to know how we got to that point in this proposal.
I can probably address that more so because we asked them, and it's what I said earlier. In the course of this process of Spencer's Landing, as long as it's been going on, the conversation, let's start with the mall, came up. That's an opportunity. It could be simple as the mall will lease us that land for $1 and we can put a bike trail, and that's it, right? There's been questions, are there wetlands, or this, that, so that's one. Number two, parking. There's been conversations here tonight. How do you put an amphitheater of what would be the biggest considered scope of it? And nobody's even saying it's going to be that large. That's why we have them to say, this ain't going to work if that's the case. But if in fact we have this other resource of Manville or some part of it, and we've got this large footprint of potential parking, should we be considering investing in that as a possibility? Then with respect to 12th Street, same thing. 12th Street was not on the table when we first started talking about Spencer's Landing. We reacquired that property, right, as you're well familiar. Yeah. And so now we've got this footprint that encompasses these 4 properties. So, for example, when we've looked at this before, it was just the kayak launch and what we spent. So and I've got a question for you on this, but they've said they will look at all of this from the, ground zero perspective and say, these are the pieces you have, these are the pieces you should or shouldn't consider, This is our advice to you, because we all have recent experience that I won't mention specifically what it was, where we were kind of thinking, hey, this might be a good idea. And then we got some input on it and we were thinking, hey, this is not such a great idea, right? And so, and we put it in reverse, and that's what these guys do. And, you know, so for the steering committee, the more the merrier. And I'm of that opinion. For the scope of the project, this is what we have in play. All right. We certainly need to look at it and either include or discard it as we go down the road. Then with respect to what the hard proposal that you had to write, given the open-ended of it and the input that you got from the community tonight, I think really doesn't change what you've informed us of. My question to you would be, you know, with front-loading it with the community involvement, which I think is just a little bit of a flip on how you've written it in your proposal, right? That you put that course first, okay? Is there anything you've heard tonight or what we're talking about? I'm not asking you to answer this now until everybody puts, you know, what they have to say, because I know other people want to talk. You know, but by the time we get done, to Melissa's point, I'm going to want to know if we're in a position to vote on this tonight, because I am, okay? If, you know, unless something else I hear, which I'm listening, would say, okay, maybe we need to take a pause and let you guys go back and tweet, and that might come from you, right? So from us or from you, either way, best informed judgment. But yeah, so that's my answer to your question.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are fair points. I mean, I totally understand we need to look at all of the riverfront property in Vienna, especially any opportunities for public access to the riverfront. That's such a huge need in our community. I guess I just wanted to make sure that everyone is kind of understanding and on the same page of, like Mr. Leach was saying, you know, we started with this amphitheater, and that was what was in the RFQ. And so I think the community feels a little misled by that, because that was what was public information, and now we're told, oh, we're looking at 75 plus acres of land that could be developed. Getting a little bit of whiplash in that could, I mean, it's understandable. So, I mean, I just want to be really clear, like, I guess my next question there for you, this is a $43,000 lump sum fee to come up with essentially a master plan design with some conceptual concept of construction design and all of that. So I guess if we get this, say, best case scenario, it takes us 3 months and we knock it out of the park and get it nailed down, what next? How can we keep that ball rolling so that we can actually have something tangible? You know, as the mayor said, we've been talking about this and kicking the ball around and talking about ideas for 3, 4, 5 years. I think the community is also a little frustrated in that aspect because we're ready to see something happen. So I don't know if you guys could elaborate a little bit on that about, you know, once you give this to the city and say, here you go, what next?
So part of what our planning process would include would be estimating. So we come up with this master plan and we're going to put together, here's an estimate of what we think this entire thing's going to cost. What we would work with you all on is coming up with ideas of how could this be implemented. And we always approach this of what's your low-hanging fruit and what's the big thing that's going to cost a lot of money that you're going to have to get outside help to pay for. I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar project no matter what we do here. Just hearing the ideas of what people are interested in, your millions of dollars, whether you do an amphitheater or not, just in the improvements that could happen here. So we would look at this as what are small projects that even possibly city staff, Public Works could implement and make basic improvements to the park that would improve usability and enjoyment of the citizens and visitors. And then we would work, you all already have Lindsay Pearsall under contract, who has experience with applications and federal grants. We do as well. We would work very closely with her to identify what are the federal and state grant sources that would pay for different components of this project. Because you may have things that you wouldn't traditionally think of that would support the project and the overall development. An infrastructure upgrade. You know, part of what we have to look at here, you're going to have an amphitheater that's going to be, you know, 1,000 people or more. People are going to be going to the restroom. You're going to have a lot of utility capacity things that we need to look at. I mean, are there infrastructure upgrades that need to happen where we could get grant funding for that and then get grant funding to pay for the amphitheater itself? So we would basically, as part of this planning process, put together a funding strategy of here are the big projects you can do, here are the small projects you can do. I think to Jim's point, a lot of why those other properties got included in our proposal is it may not be that everything we want at Spencer's Landing has to go at Spencer's Landing or makes sense to go there. There are other riverfront properties where ideas that come out of the community engagement could be implemented there instead. So part of what we would also look at is say, okay, that doesn't make sense at Spencer's Landing, but maybe it makes sense at 12th Street.
Yeah.
Whether we get into full-blown design of those properties, that wasn't really the intent. It was to take a high-level look at those and say, it would really make sense to do these things there instead of at Spencer's Landing.
Sure.
This will depend heavily on what the city has to be able to start projects in terms of local investment and funds. There are also opportunities to do USDA Rural Development has community facilities grants that are more long-term, low-interest loans. That if you can identify a revenue source to offset that, will certainly help you do projects quicker. Congressionally directed spending requests have been a big thing in recent years, where the federal government is giving historic amounts of money to local governments to do projects just like this. And Craig and I have been involved in some really cool ones across the state where they're once-in-a-generation, life-changing projects for communities that you all have those opportunities too. And so our job is to help you figure out what you want to do, how much it's going to cost, and then how we pay for it.
Are you done? I'm going to say something.
Not quite, but
Keep going.
okay. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I just want to make sure that we don't get this grand master plan from you guys, and then it goes on a shelf and nothing happens for another 5 years. And I think that's kind of the concern of a lot of residents here as well. We've done that already a little bit and talked about it several times, and then haven't really moved on it. So I want to make sure that we can do that moving forward. But and I think Mr. Sander brought up a good point about schedule. I think that's something that we probably need to nail down, even if it's not perfect, but to set some kind of expectation between the city and Thrasher on, hey, next month we're going to sit down and have a concept plan. The following month we're going to review changes to that concept plan. And by the end of this summer, we're going to have a plan in place that we can roll with. I think that that's something that we should look at in either revising this proposal, if you guys are willing to do that and make some changes. And obviously, it sounds like we need to include more community input, maybe up front, rather than how the proposal was written. I mean, I would be happy to, I don't know how we would do that tonight, or if you guys need to take that back and come back to the next council meeting. I'm assuming this is just kind of your first offer, if you will, to the city, correct?
Correct.
So maybe a question to you, Russ, is if we vote this down tonight, say, and will Thrasher have an opportunity to revise a proposal to come back to council?
I think the safer thing to do would be to table.
Okay.
We've talked about it because I think you've got I had some questions about potentially material changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some questions about those that I'm going to wait until the end to see if they're answered.
Okay.
I think the safest thing to do is we have these suggestions and treat this more as a negotiation.
Right.
And then we give you the suggestions. You would give us a second draft, and then we just bring it back to the next council meeting because I don't want to outright reject.
Yeah, that's what I just want to make
outright
sure.
reject the resolution as it is, or the agreement as it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Also, I don't make that decision.
Yeah.
That's you guys.
so in my view of this, when we say yes, whether it's tonight or a couple weeks from now, whatever, when we say yes, in my mind, I'm thinking the next step is for you guys to come down with a blank piece of paper and listen to people, whether it's a couple community sessions where people come in, we rent, we have the community building or whatever, if it's something online or whatever. In my mind, that's where we go first, just so that it enhances your understanding and continues to broaden as you guys are computing all this and figuring out how, like, what the best solutions are going to be. I would hope that would be the first thing that we could do. I also, to Chris's point about, how things have kind of been on the shelf, I wouldn't agree with that necessarily. I think I think this RFQ process is the proof that the city is earnest. Like, this isn't going on the shelf now. Like, this is, to me, the signal to the community that we have heard you, we are doing this, we are going to get things going at Spencer's Landing, and it doesn't mean that anything is being done without anybody else's approval, no decisions have been made, nothing is in stone. It's just that we have finally said, okay, now we're taking, concepts that we've had and master plans that have been done, and now we are ready to move forward on this. And it may be a multi-step plan. It may take several years to see the whole thing done. It may end up involving these properties, and heck, there could be other properties. We don't know, so there could be, this could be a long-term project, but I don't, as far as I'm concerned, when the RFQ is done, it's real time. Like, we're ready to talk seriously. Like, let's start talking about, funding streams and getting that community input and figuring out what to do so that it's not just talk, it starts to become action. You have to be able to act on what is presented.
So, excuse me, Mr. Azinger? Do you have any questions or comments for the Thrasher Group?
No.
All right, Mr. Leach.
I mean, I said just two questions. Okay, so first of all, we do have, the RFQ, the response to the RFQ. And Jack, everybody got the same RFQ that we interviewed, correct? Right. So, that was a question that I think was important to Russ. Is there anything proprietary that would prevent us from sharing the information about your qualifications and so forth that you presented to us? Because I think this would go a long way to help folks understand why we have such confidence in who you are and what you do and what you can deliver for the city of Vienna. And then the second is, in terms of the proposal, I mentioned that earlier, but the scope of work that you're discussing is for $43,000. And I do want you to answer, again, not now, once you've heard from everybody that has any questions, whether you believe that the scope that you're presenting to us tonight is in an appropriate form for us to consider and vote on, or whether you want to take it home. And then that'll also come from our side, what we think about the same thing. So that's all I have right now.
Kim.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. Hold on, Tom. We're still in the discussion part of it.
Okay. Thank you for coming this evening. And I think it was kind of probably, you didn't expect this tonight. I don't know that I expected it tonight, but regardless, I think there are two key things that we can do that will make this, that will satisfy everybody, okay? Because you came into a situation, it's like we're having Thanksgiving dinner right now, but you didn't know it. You came to a situation where there's a lot of water under the bridge, okay? So the two key things that I believe that we can do to get this thing to go, number one, your suggestion of having a meeting with the public to get some ideas from the public first before we move forward, okay? I think that's essential. Number two, this I know is a big thing for me, and I think there are lots of people in the community that share this. We are very fortunate on this council to have an actual architect who is licensed in the state of West Virginia, the state of Ohio, and the state of Kentucky. But yet, he's never been allowed to be a part of this and to be a part of the steering committee. So if Mr. Mancuso can be put on the steering committee, I know me personally, I would feel a lot better about that. So those are two really minor things, and I think that we can overcome those. But regarding the contract tonight, I know I would feel better for me if you would go back and there can be discussions and we get the contract that we need to get and then to come back and approve it, because I have full confidence in your firm. I've heard nothing but good things about Thrasher, and I feel confident moving forward with y'all, but just under conditions where we invite the public to be a participant in this, and that we actually utilize our best resource on this council to get the highest and best outcome. Thank you.
Mr. Skogstad.
Yeah. So one of the suggestions tonight, it falls under one of the suggestions that have been made tonight is for public input. Under paragraph B, inventory and analysis of existing facilities that you have in your proposal. There are 6 items, and I'm not going to belabor them, but one of them could be public input, right? If you were to add public input as a 7th item, right, for example, would that significantly alter the cost that we're talking about, this $43,000 initially?
No.
Okay. A couple of other questions, and I'll just take it as a motion if council wants to move for an executive session to talk about these issues. But the issue I was going to bring up is, one, I think the agreement does need to have, if you go into your terms and conditions, which is the attachment at the end after acceptance, because under the acceptance it says you're creating a valid contract by signing this, and you have the additional terms and conditions. And you look at period of performance, there's not a time period specified. Is that something that is going to add cost to the overall contract by adding some type of a timetable or a schedule?
I think the only thing that would add significant cost to our fee is if the timetable's a month or 2 weeks.
Right. So if it's something unreasonably short, yeah, if you could just bring us the proposal now. It wouldn't be an issue to add some type of a timetable, a term, a specific term. And I guess the other thing is the payment issue. You look at payment, you look at suspension, termination, full and final agreement. The zipper clause under the full final agreement says that any modification essentially has to be done in writing, and to make modifications after the agreement signed may incur certain costs. So I'm assuming that the general things that we're talking about you've indicated aren't going to result in additional costs. So there shouldn't be that much of an issue to add those on another draft of this. The termination clause, however, is very favorable to Thrasher. It says you can terminate for 14 days notice, and under the agreement, all services performed. If services are terminated by the client shall pay Thrasher in addition to any and all compensation due under the offer to perform services, any amount incurred by Thrasher in performing services and preparing to perform services, and in orderly terminating services. So if something happened that you were failed to perform for some reason, under this term, we would still be obligated to pay you the entire $43,000 of the contract.
We can certainly revise that. Here's what I would recommend. If this does in fact get tabled this evening,
okay,
I would recommend a markup of the things that the city has issues, takes exception to. And certainly, we never prepare an agreement that doesn't get amended or edited, okay? So I think certainly, yes, we will explore all of those things. We certainly have a legal team that we would run things by, but nothing you have mentioned gives us any heartburn. Certainly, as Sam said, we'll put a fair and reasonable schedule together that we think makes sense. The biggest risk we have with these types of projects is if it goes on for 3 years and we're still redesigning and meeting and redesigning and meeting. So certainly if we could do that, we would be fine. Typically, the way we would handle your question regarding the payment is the way we bill, we bill monthly lump sum based on a percentage complete. If we're 10% complete, we bill you for 10%. we would typically look at how far complete we are at the point the contract were terminated, and we would come to a fair and reasonable agreement on what we should be compensated.
Could we have a table of some sort where both parties can look at it and make a determination that, yes, this project is 10% done, 20% done?
Yeah.
Typically in construction projects, you put milestones. If the foundation is done, that's considered, 20%, 10%, I don't know. The walls are up, that's 30%, something else, something that has specific milestones that we could look at.
Absolutely.
And then that way, we're not relying on you to say, no, we're actually 85% done. Take our word for it.
Right.
But if we could put something together like that, I think that should be incorporated, or could be easily incorporated in the agreement.
Certainly.
And that was all I was asking.
All right, so I'm assuming we're done with discussion. All right?
I think you can, yes.
It's the same kind of.
Yes. You're not bringing an issue back. It's generally, when that becomes an issue is when something gets voted down and somebody keeps trying to bring it back every 5 minutes during the course of the meeting.
So what's your pleasure?
Motion to table.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we table this item until the next council meeting. All those in favor, and you'll need to poll council.
All right, motion to table again. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Leach?
Yes.
Mr. Azinger?
Yeah.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
I say yes. Mr. Mancuso?
Yes.
Table till next meeting. Would you please put it back on the agenda? We will be in touch with you with a corrected version. All right?
Perfect.
And your next council meeting is?
2 weeks from tonight.
Second.
So, yeah, but in addition, we would, just as I think one of you already mentioned, we would appreciate any markup that you would have relative to what you've heard tonight as well, right? So this needs to be a two-way street. That, yeah, so.
July 11th is the next council.
Okay, thank you.
The only amendment I could see would be to bring security to the next meeting or an escort.
What did you say? Next council meeting?
July 11th.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys for coming tonight.
All right, the next item on our agenda this evening is an update on the Freedom Festival. Jack, that is you.
Yes, I just wanted to say that everything's in order and ready for the next few days for the Freedom Festival. Hope everybody makes it out tomorrow. I do want to tell you some of the stuff that's really changed that started coming in. Some of the stuff that just started coming in that's not been there before, the armed services.
Hold on, can you hold on just a second, Jack? Wait till everybody's done talking.
Yeah.
Ethel, we need you to either have a seat or. Okay.
The armed service groups are a big thing that's going to be there this year. The 19th Special Forces Unit is there. They brought in a rock climbing wall. They're bringing in 5 of their attack vehicles. These are Green Berets that'll be bringing these in. They're going to have a lot of their equipment that they use will be there tomorrow. The Army is there tonight. They're actually camping there. They brought in their equipment today. They've got a tent. And some of the boys were from Kentucky, and they said they have to camp with their equipment, so they're going to be there. The Air Force is going to be there. Regular Army's there. The other thing, it's going to be music that we've mentioned. You're aware of Dave Bray, Don McLean, Track 9, and also Changes in Latitude, which is a Jimmy Buffett tribute band. All that's in order. The stage is up. Everything's rolling along. Barney Fife arrived just a little bit ago, checked into his hotel, and he'll be there with his car driving around the area. So he's and like I say, Don Knotts' daughter met Barney Fife, and she was amazed with him. So he's going to be quite good, going to be interesting. But one of the things we were able to bring back, we brought back 2 days now. I think the last time we talked, I only had 1 day of the Aerial Acrobats, which is out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And the kids loved them. So we were doing everything we could to try to get 2 days because they come in, aerial acrobats, they do a lot, they interact with the kids. Last year, it started out with maybe 10, 15 kids sitting in a circle watching them in this ring perform. The second show, you were probably up to about 40 or 50 by the third show. There were probably 200 or 300 kids, and they were loving it. So they're going to be there 2 days performing. Naturally, we've got craft vendors, we've got food vendors, we've got a car show on Saturday, a motorcycle show. Friday night will be the first time in West Virginia, and this is going to have a big turnout. There's just no doubt because we've had too many people contacting. We've got people coming from other areas to see how this goes that are interested in it. The aerial drone show is going to be amazing. The companies from Texas, I believe they arrive here tomorrow morning, and one of the robotics clubs from Parkersburg High School has arranged, and we reached out to the high schools this year. Wanted to get the community involved as much and get the young people involved, and these drones are something they were really interested in. So the robotics club's going to be there. As the drones are being set up, they're going to be able to watch part of that. But that's going to be an amazing show that'll end the night for Friday. Fireworks, on Saturday night, end the night, and they've always been absolutely amazing. So it's a big festival, a big setup, and the following weekend, Spencer's Landing, Friday and Saturday night, and that's going to be the rodeo. And rodeo will be there, the carnival's going to be there, and the hot air balloons are going to be there. And we've got 2 hot air balloons that's planning to be there, and we think that we've just got a full schedule. And just remember one thing: this is only the 3rd year of the festival, and it's really growing. It's doing well. They're really proud of the board too. I mean, our board put so much work into it. It's a year-round project. We've had the good fortune. We were on WTAP. We've had some great articles with the newspaper, and we had a live broadcast. Amanda was on the radio. Great relationship now with Seven Mountains Media. And they're going to be there. They're going to be on the stage. Going to be a lot of activity. And good guy. I mean, it starts tomorrow. So that's pretty much it. I just want to thank you all for your support and everything, kind words and everything for the festival. Yeah, it means a lot. It is a lot of work, and everybody appreciates it. So glad and hope to see all of you out there. I think you'll have a good time. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jeff.
The last item on our agenda this evening is the update on Jackson Pool.
You may go first?
Yeah.
Okay. The slides were successfully opened on Tuesday. I personally have gone down several times when we went on Tuesday and again on Thursday. We've been there a couple times this week, and it was neat. The kids don't know what I've had to do with anything, and I'm just the awkward adult up there going down the slides with them, and they are really having a good time with them. They're very happy with them. They were giving me all kinds of tips on how to hold my body and so I could go faster and all that good stuff. So they're a real hit. I want to thank Greg and the other guys from the Parks Department who are really doing a good job at daily maintaining the pool. There's he and the other guys, they've just completely dug into this thing, and they are making sure the pH is right and the levels right, chemicals and the testing and the pumps and all these things. And now that we've got the slides going, they've got 3 bodies of water essentially that they're having to manage and maintain, and they're doing a great job at it. There was a miscommunication between the management company, Professional Pool Services, and the city regarding how swim lessons were going to be facilitated. Everything's been corrected. The lessons are offered twice. They'll take place July 8th through 11th and the 15th to the 18th from 11 o'clock to 11:30. The cost is $20 for each session. Ages 3 through 12 can register. The children are going to be grouped by their skill level. So you might have some that are afraid of the water, and you might have others that, like to play, but they need, they're ready to start swimming and that kind of stuff. So they'll be grouped by skill level. And to register for either one of them or both, you go to the pool during open hours. They take cash and check. If anybody had registered under the previous price that was initially put out there, you will get a refund for the overage. One more small thing. Just a reminder, so we are allowing food to come in. So, whether you bring in your own Domino's pizza or whether you bring in your own snacks in your own bag, that's fine. But just really want to encourage everybody to pick up your trash. We've got tons of trash cans there, and to take care of it. Don't leave it for somebody else to pick up, please. That's it.
So Melissa made a comment about the slides, and I just want to clear up some misinformation that's been traveling around. In order to open the slides, they have to be commissioned. And so there's a lady named Kimberly Ayers that works for the state of West Virginia that she came up, and in order to commission our slides, we had to solicit volunteers of all shapes and sizes because they need to know how much of a run out there is when you get into the landing zones for the slides. And so Charlie Taylor, the contractor, asked for volunteers to come up there and be part of the testing crew so that the slides could be used. The crew that installed them went down it multiple times before any of our citizens went down them. They determined it to be safe, that everything was solid and in good working order. And so for 2 hours, we had, 60-pound kids clear up to 240-pound adults testing the slides, because you have to determine when you come out of that chute what it takes to stop you. And so there was no private pool party. There was nothing about this entire deal, but we had to do this in front of that lady from the state so that she could take measurements and prove that it would stop you in a safe manner. And so, I just thought that was interesting because we've never had to go through the commissioning of slides before, but they passed with flying colors, and so they are open, and the kids love it. And she's right, it's fun. And so I did not go down the slides. I sat there for 2 hours and played lifeguard, and that is not a job I would want, but it was great. So I'll finish my evening with a quick story. There was a young lady and her little brother that went up on the slides together, and they wanted to have a competition to see who could go down the slides the fastest. Well, the little brother, he's one of these little guys that he does not like to lose. And so they're standing in the chutes, and I told him, I said, I'll count down 1, 2, 3, and you go on 3. And so the little girl was right there in front of me, and, they're holding on for dear life. And I said 1, and she took off. That little guy looked at me and he said, "She cheated." I said, "Yes, sir, she did. You lost." And that was the end of that. It was so funny. That look on that little guy's face, "She cheated." "Yes, sir, she did." Anyway, the pool is a very, very fun thing. So anyway.
I have a couple of questions about the pool before you move on. Okay. I heard you say that you're allowing folks to bring in their own food, which I think that's great. But it just was curious to me, is there a problem with the concessions operation?
No, the concessions, and that's the city's not running the concessions. Yes, some professional pool management is doing that. And, it was all agreed that, if people are bringing in their own food, that's fine. Especially for, I don't think as many people are bringing in a Domino's pizza as parents are putting applesauces and cheese sticks and Cheez-Its and stuff like that in their bags for their kids, and we didn't want to restrict that. So regardless, I'm one of those moms. I have packed my bag full of everything my kids eat all day long, and they still want to go to the concession stand. So I take all those snacks back home with me. So even if you pack stuff, they're still going to concession stand.
I think it's great, and once again, anything that we do that removes a barrier for kids to have that. I was one of those kids that my mom packed the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right?
Right.
But My other question was about the swim lessons, and I'm very excited there are swim lessons. I think that was definitely a goal of mine in opening up the pool, that we have swim lessons, so kids learn how to swim. And I'm appreciative of the fact that the cost is now $20 versus $60, and I can understand the miscommunication. But my question about the $20 fee is, is that going to the city or the pool management company?
That goes to the city.
The city,
Mhm.
okay. And then
Yeah.
we
'Cause
reimburse
because before it, or we thought we had everything, that we thought it was them running the swim lessons as they're running the concession stand, where they charge, they keep, that kind of stuff. And there was just a miscommunication of when the contract, was revised and got signed and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so the $20 does go to the city, but we are still paying for, the salaries and
Yep, gotcha.
that kind of stuff.
And
Yeah.
just my last question, and once again, it's about those swim lessons. Maybe there wasn't time this year or whatever, but, the American Red Cross runs a free swim program. Hopefully, we can look into that for next year.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I would love, hopefully next year, because as soon as the swim season's over, we're going to have a powwow and talk about, what worked, what didn't work, how do we want to improve, how do we want to get better for next year. And one of those things, I would love to be able to offer swim lessons like in May, before the season gets started, have them back to back to back, and, that kind of stuff, because that way they're ready for the swim season as soon as it gets here.
And fire up those heaters.
That's right. It'll be ready, baby.
That's great. I'm
Yeah.
very encouraged to hear that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything else for council comment?
Council comments, just a quick note. Budget and Finance would normally be on July 2nd. It's being moved to July 9th.
Thank you all for coming this
Is it
evening.
still council comments? I asked a question about the pool, and I do have a council comment.
Yeah.
So, are you ready?
I'm waiting on you, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Book clubs, craft classes, mental health awareness, healthy cooking for seniors, lunch and learns with experts in the community. These are just some of the activities seniors would like to have offered at the Vienna Senior Center. Currently, the seniors, on the senior side, not the gym side, the senior side is limited to pretty much games, card games. And they want to do so much more if the city would just provide the opportunity by extending the hours and facilitating the programming. The need for fellowship and activities for our seniors has never been greater, but the hours of operation at the Senior Center are limited to Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Friday evenings from 5 to 8 p.m. Why is the Senior Center only open for 3 hours on Friday when the seniors are requesting full day of activities? During the budget process, the Senior Center Director asked for one part-time employee to be made full-time so that the Senior Center could offer these activities that the seniors have requested. Now, just a few months later, the mayor stated that the Senior Center Director is no longer in favor of extending the part-time employee to full-time so the Senior Center can be open more and have the activities seniors have requested. I find it appalling that nearly every meeting this council can fund something else that wasn't budgeted for, whether it's money for the Freedom Festival, tackle football, digital signs, various studies that don't get used, the list goes on and on. Why aren't our seniors deserving? I challenge members of council to go to the Senior Center and talk to seniors and check the programming out for yourself. If, after you speak to seniors, you still don't feel the need to increase the hours of operation and programming, I can respect that because at least you tried to make an informed decision. Our seniors deserve the respect of us listening to them.
So let me answer your comment. In my discussions with the HR director and the Senior Center director, she is not in favor of making that position full-time.
I heard you say that the last meeting, yes, but I'm challenging council to hear for themselves what they want at the Senior Center.
I'm not disagreeing. I think it's a great idea. It is just not what is in the director's scope. All right?
I don't think that's the case, but
Are you saying I'm not telling the truth?
no, sir, I'm not. I'm asking the council members, everybody here, and yourself included, to walk across the street and talk to the seniors and find out, what they want.
So I've asked the HR director, and she's completed 1 week of it, to go up and monitor the activities on the senior side. When she finishes the second week, then we'll have a report. All right?
I would hope that you yourself would walk over there and speak
I've
to
been
the-
over there.
Okay.
All right?
I'll just note, so particularly for you guys to express specific interest in Thrasher, this is their response to our request for qualifications, which outlines their staff, their relevant experience and so forth. And as I heard, they gave us permission to go ahead and put this out to the public. And the mayor has also green-lighted that. So I'll give it to our IT department to have this posted on our website so that you can look over. Because of interest, if it is of interest to you, they talk a lot about what their approach would be, when they talked about the ground zero, about phasing, about the kayak launch, about historic significance and different things. So I think it would give you a better idea of what their approach has been, because their actual proposal is on the website, or I think it's on the website. I know it's on our agenda. So anyway, this will get posted. That's all I got.
Any other comments? Thank you all for coming this evening. Meeting adjourned.
Take care.